You're listening to the Ella and Leland Show, brought to you by Gopher Recording Studio, www.gopherrecordingstudio.com. We're making dreams a reality. Hello, Ella.
Hello.
We are here, and we are on February 11th.
11th.
That's crazy to me.
It is.
That seems crazy. So we're back. I have to recap a few things. Last week, when we were doing our podcast,
yes,
Leland had COVID. And we were all good, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're good. And then Sunday, you got sick.
Yes.
And guess what? COVID. So them first few hours, they were rough, weren't they?
They were awful.
But I prayed to the Lord, and He comes through all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we're here, and we're doing this podcast.
Yes.
And this is episode 4.
Episode 4, wow.
So this is our 4th episode. And then I wanted to, one thing, Ella, I wanted to recap. Remember last week I had talked about what do you do with your cereal first? Do you pour your cereal in first and then the milk, or the milk and then the cereal?
Yeah.
And then you had happened to say, well, those who pour their milk in first are monsters.
Yes.
Well, we were eating cereal this morning, and I said, I just noticed, once you're done with the first cereal, and if you have another bowl of cereal, the milk's already in there. And you said to me something like, I've been living a lie my whole life.
My whole life's a lie.
So, but I mean, you never thought about that either, have you?
No.
But I think we're a lot more careful pouring it in the second time, right?
Yes.
So, anyway, that was interesting to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never thought about that before. And then we had talked about, too, this dumb reason, how to put on the toilet paper roll. And I said you put it over top. I think I put it underneath, actually. I know I made the whole argument. But I don't want to be pawned for that.
Which way would you
Well,
pawn?
if it's over the top, you go like that, like a cat. You can't see what I'm doing right now.
When it's underneath, you just pull. Right.
I have no clue. Anyway, I'm just glad there's toilet paper there. So and we have a lot to talk about, Ella. Why do I get out here and just forget things?
Okay, I forgot something too this morning. I was watching this video, and I had this great idea, and I'm like, I'm going to comment it in just a second for this girl to do, because she does a lot of art stuff. And then I watched like a few seconds more. I'm like, I forgot. And I tried to remember the whole morning what I had said, because it was a really good idea.
And you still don't remember?
No.
Oh. Well, that doesn't help, does it?
No.
Maybe it'll come back to you as we're doing this podcast.
Maybe.
All of a sudden you'll get, that proverbial light bulb.
Yeah, hopefully. Over
your head. You know how they do that in cartoons and stuff? And ding! I always thought that was funny. The light comes on. So we're gonna just tell a couple spooky stories, right?
Yes.
This is kind of our spooky story podcast.
Yes.
Do you want me to go first?
Sure.
Okay. Well, I heard this story.
Okay.
And stop me. It's a true story. But stop me if you've heard it. Yes.
Okay.
So this was an aunt of yours, actually a great aunt. She went over to England. You know where England's at?
She did?
Yes, she went over to England. And now I get this. Wait, I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
But
it sets the mood.
So she went over to England, and she needed work there because she just figured she'd go over there to, see. But, it takes money to live, right? So she looked at this ad in the paper, and this is before they had the internet and stuff.
Yeah.
And she looked in the paper, and it looked for a living, like a housekeeper. Not a housekeeper, but to watch the children.
Oh, so like a babysitter.
Yeah, a living nanny. Yeah. There you go, a living nanny. So she goes there. It took her hard to get the job because the guy really didn't want to give her the job for some reason, But the guy was the uncle of these kids, and I should mention these kids. Why they need a nanny is because their parents had died in a car crash.
Oh.
And so they lived in this huge mansion.
Oh.
And they had a gardener, a groundskeeper, I guess they'd call her, and a maid, and a chef.
So I take it they were rich.
They were rich. Yes, they were rich. So that's why it was kind of a trust they set up for these kids. A will.
Yeah.
What the dad and mom wanted. So anyway, she's over there and she starts seeing these crazy things. And you know how you see things, you rub your eyes or whatever, and you're like, oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Well, she keeps seeing these things, and then she finds out that the nanny before her went missing.
You know what? I don't need this job. I'm going to go take the other job.
Yeah, that's what I would think, huh?
Yeah.
Like, it's been nice being here. But see, this place, they called it a manor. It was absolutely beautiful.
Oh.
It was in the country, and it had its own pond and everything.
That must be pretty.
So when she first went there, she was all really cool. But there were two kids. There was a girl, we'll just call her Ella, and there was a boy named Leland, right?
Okay.
And this Leland boy, he was a naughty little thing.
That's what
the first time
guessed.
the nanny said, we can play one game, and the boy Leland goes, go look in the closet. I saw something in there. So she goes in the closet, and he closes it and locks it, and it's a small old type closet,
Oh.
And so she's like, okay, let me out, let me out, and then she's panicking. She's like hyperventilating.
Small space.
And then she goes over. There's a mirror in there. Isn't that weird?
Oh.
And she looks in the mirror and she thinks she sees somebody standing behind her. So finally, when the kids get it open, and I don't know, I don't know why it wouldn't open, but they said it wouldn't open. It will open. It would. That's my English accent. It wouldn't open. I promise. And she's like, that wasn't very nice. And yeah, she wasn't happy. I wouldn't be happy either.
So that was my great aunt?
That was your great aunt. And so anyway, so this keeps going on. They keep having these things. And this girl, Ella, she has these dolls.
Oh, no,
but they're little dolls. She had a whole what do they call that? Those houses, mini house, dollhouse. Good thing you're here. So they had a dollhouse, and it's something that her uncle had made for a birthday party before her parents had died.
That's sweet.
So every one of these dolls takes on a
role in the house.
Well, so the nanny one night is going to tuck Ella in, and she sees a doll is laying on the floor.
Oh, no.
And she goes to pick it back. She was going to pick it up, though. She's like, you can't. Well, she wasn't. You can't leave these on the ground. And she's like, oh, don't touch that. They don't want you to touch that. And she's like, oh, that's kind of odd, So anyway, she left it there. She just left it there. And she thought, oh, well, this is, she's still having a hard time with her parents passing away. So this keeps going on. Weird things like this keeps happening. And then she notices after every night, there's muddy footprints in the house. She keeps blaming the kids for getting up at night and dragging all this in. So here's a short story long, or long story short, however you want to go. This nanny before, right? Mm-hmm. The one she was hired by, the uncle of these kids, had a gentleman who worked for him. Okay. Well, this guy fell in love with the nanny, and somehow he went missing. So
excuse me, what?
He went missing also. And this new nanny thought she had seen him around, peeking in the windows and stuff. So they're like, well, he just took all the uncle's money.
He did?
Yeah, he drained a lot of his money. So they're like, oh, he's just trying to scare us, He probably did something to the nanny.
I've never heard this story before.
No, you have.
But can I make a prediction?
Yes.
All along, it was the uncle.
It was not the uncle.
It wasn't?
So after this, I'm trying to think. And this chef, I mean, everybody's got they've got their own little
guys,
they've got their own little story in it. Well, it happens that the kid the kid was haunted by this guy who fell in love with the previous nanny because he had fallen in a well or something.
The kid or the...
No.
The kid?
The uncle.
Or the uncle?
The uncle had.
Huh.
Not the uncle. I'm sorry. The guy who took the uncle's money. Who was in love.
The guy that went missing.
Yes.
Okay.
So, however, and the girl had drowned in the pond.
Like Ella or...
No.
The nanny?
The previous nanny that went missing. She had drowned in the pond. Well, so come to find out after my mom told me this story, come to find out that this house was built in the 1600s. And the first builders of this house, she had gotten what they called the lung, which is like what do they call that?
The iron lung?
Well, yeah, let's just call it the iron lung.
Did she have like polio or something?
No, she had what Doc Holliday had. He had I can't think of it. I'm sorry, I can't think of it, but people know what I'm talking about, where you spit up blood and stuff, and you have a horrible cough. So she was in bed for like 6 years.
The nanny?
No. This is the original people.
Oh, of the house.
And she had married a guy, and her daughter. Well, she just wanted to go play with her daughter because she missed her, and they're like, "No, you can't because you might get her sick."
Yeah.
Well, this lady also had a sister around her age. So,
sister, I'm assuming.
No, she was not, and she tried to help her, and there was a point earlier in this girl's life she lived with this disease for like 2 years. Oh. So the priest had come in, and he was going to give her last rites. She said, "I will not take last rites." That's kind of fishy, huh? And then the sister of this girl said, "Yeah, she's not going to take last rites." Well, anyway, she lived for 4 more years. Wow. Well, this sister who was taking care of the sick girl, the sick sister was so upset every now and then she'd hit the sister. Oh. And the sister just got tired of it one night. Yeah. And choked her.
Oh dear.
And then she died. So, hence, the story is that the sister's spirit was there. And they had locked away this room for the little girl when she got older. She could inherit all that, but the girl never found out about this room. So, finally, the sister wanted to go in this room because things were not going good with the house. Yeah. They needed money. And there were lots of stuff in there. Yeah. But it was only for the daughter. Girl. Yeah. Well, this girl went in there. Or the sister went in there to get like a coat, stuff to sell. And it was said that the lady ghost was sitting there and choked her out. And they found this lady dead.
Wow.
So fast forward however long this is, and that's where it comes back. And they said on the full moon that this lady showed up, and these people showed up. And the previous nanny and this guy wanted to take over the bodies of Ella and Leland.
What? Oh, boy. Okay.
Oh, boy.
I have a question. Is this house still there today, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, it is, but they won't tell you where it's at.
Wait, what?
They don't want anybody to visit there now.
Does that family that you named the kids Ella and Leland, does that family still live there?
I can't say.
Oh.
But we're getting close.
To an ad.
To an ad, so we're just going to pause right there, and then we'll get back into it. Mm-hmm. It's kind of exciting. It's a good story.
It's a good story.
Okay. So we said this is like a mansion.
Yes.
It's even bigger than a mansion.
Yeah.
They call it a manor. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll just wait for the ad right about now. Should come in anytime.
So the house is really big is what we're trying to say.
It's huge.
Huge.
It's an estate. It's got its own pond. You're listening to the Ella and Leland Show, brought to you by Gopher Recording Studio, www.gopherrecordingstudio.com, where we're making dreams a reality. So, Ella, we were talking about how this is a manor and this big. These people were rich.
Rich.
They were really rich. And then I was talking about on the full moon, it only happens every 27 years. And this lady shows up. This is a story that she shows up. These ghosts show up, and they're telling Ella and Leland, they're saying, just wish us into your body, and then you'll be with your parents for all time, right?
Yeah.
And you won't have to go through any of this pain. So that way, weirdly, he can be with his nanny, his girlfriend. But they're actually brothers and sisters, and they're young. So anyway, so this is happening, and this original lady, she's creating havoc everywhere she goes. She's just choking out people, this and that. So this is where your great aunt comes in, and she actually had some kind of thing.
Music box?
No, some kind of connection with this ghost. So as they all said that she connected, this ghost was coming out of the water, because I had forgot to mention when she was when she died, and her husband, he knew bad stuff was going on.
Yeah.
He took her ashes and her stuff and he threw it in the middle of the pond.
I mean, I wouldn't throw it in the middle of the pond.
But
you might want to sprinkle it as something nice to do.
But she was evil.
Oh, that.
So they're like, we're going to lock it away forever, So it's hard to follow. I know it's hard to follow this story. But so anyway, this lady is saying, I'll be you and you be me. And so she took this lady went in her.
Yeah.
So the evil lady.
Yeah.
That she found peace there or whatever, solace. So for however many years she was in this, and it finally got on this nanny, the recent nanny.
Yeah, to my great aunt.
Yeah, and she went back to the pond, and she walked in the middle of it, and they say she's still at the bottom today.
I would like to dig up that pond and go inside that house. Wait, so it was your aunt?
Yeah.
Did you ever get to meet her?
Well, no, I should say actually it was my great aunt.
So my great aunt.
Great aunt.
Okay, so did you ever get to meet her?
Nope.
So it was whose aunt? Grandma or Grandpa's?
Well, this is the weird part. It was said to be Grandpa's sister that he never met. Ooh-wee-oo. So this is it's a weird tale, but it's kind of intriguing,
story, yeah.
So that's my spooky story. Do you have a spooky story?
I think I have a few short ones.
Go ahead.
When I was 3 years old, my brother Leland was probably 5.
Yeah.
We were playing at my grandparents' house. It was pitch black outside. And he went under a pine tree without me, and he came out and he said, "Ella, I just saw an angel. It just came up to me." And I'm like, what? You want to go inside now? And he's like, "No, it was so cool. It was glowing and it was bright yellow or orange, and it just walked up to me." And I'm like, and me and my 3-year-old brain was probably thinking you want to go inside now? It's getting late. And then he told everybody else, and they're like, wow, probably thinking he has a wild imagination.
Sure.
And then this past year, me, my cousin, two of my cousins from different sides, and my brother were playing, I think it's called Ditch'em.
Ditch'em, yes.
In the
hide
dark.
And go seek.
Yeah, it was so much fun. And I was hiding under a trailer the whole time. And then they actually, they saw some sort of shadow figure past the fence in the horse pasture. And it must have been 10 feet tall or something. And they're like, "What is that?" And they're like, Ella? Because I had been hiding for several rounds. Everybody had been at least twice. And I had just been hiding. And they're they stopped the game because they thought I was lost or something. And then they started looking for me, and I'm like, I've been down here the whole time. So, there's that.
You got a quick one right before the break again?
I have I don't know if I have another spooky story. Oh, why don't you go from when you were a kid? You know the one I'm thinking
So
of.
Ella always wants to hear the story. And this is the weirdest, coolest thing. It never scared me, Ella, but I was in my room one day, and this was in high school.
I thought you were a kid.
No, I was in high school, and I was in a room upstairs, which is now Aunt Tammy's closet, which tells you how small the room is. And I was just sitting there, and all of a sudden, I look out, and it was during the day, and comes the window, an orb of light, and it kind of floats there for a couple seconds, and then it goes straight up out of the roof, moves to the north a little bit, and then shoots straight out the roof. And that's my story. I don't know if it's spooky, but I saw it. I saw it. Good thing it didn't touch me. It probably started me on fire or something. But I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I thought you were in, like, grade school or something.
Oh, that'd have been better if I'd have said that, huh?
Yeah. If I were in, like, any lower grade. Because I always thought he was talking about this. I always thought it was night, which would have been way spookier.
Well, then, okay, it was that night. I'm just trying to tell the truth, what happened, what actually happened. So, we're coming up on another break, aren't we?
Yes, and then after that, I can tell a story about a horse.
Okay, then you can tell a story about this is a horse story. Last week, you told a story about elk.
Yes, and then the week before that, I told a story about a parrot. All these stories... I gotta hurry up before the ad. All these stories are about an animal saving a child's life. And next time I have my last story, and it's about a dolphin. So,
dolphin?
Yes, and now we're really close to the ad.
I just gotta say it was probably in an ocean, huh?
Yes.
You're listening to the Ella and Leland Show, sponsored by Gopher Recording Studio, www.gopherrecordingstudio.com. We made all your recording needs. All right, Ella. Well, that, like we said, there's the ad.
There's the ad.
Go get your stuff done at Gopher Recording Studio, right?
Yep.
Okay, now, Ella, you're going to tell us a story about a horse.
About a horse. Okay.
Mr. Ed, of course, right?
Okay. So, there was this girl, and she woke up, and she had the worst stomach pains ever. Like, she thought she was fine, but she couldn't even move. So they took her to the hospital, her parents did. And, quick background story. It was her birthday the day before that, and her family owned this huge thing of land, but she's like, I want a horse. And her friend had horses, so they would ride together, but she's like, I want my own horse. But then on the day after her birthday, when she woke up, she had those awful stomach pains. So her mother took her to the hospital. And it ended up being something really, really serious. I can't remember what it was. But it was something super, super serious.
Was it gas? That can happen.
Okay, but it was something like really serious. I can't remember what
Appendicitis?
it was. That's what you'd think with stomach pains, but
right.
I don't think it was that. I think it was something like worse. And so she was in the hospital for a really long time. And then there was like this Make-A-Wish thing.
Yeah.
And it said, choose 3 things that you would that you wish for. And in really big letters, on all of them she wrote horse. And when she got out of the hospital, her parents took her to her friend's barn.
Okay.
And keep in mind she's a kid. Like, not too young, but she's still a kid.
So, like, about 10 to 12?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, maybe like 13. So, they took her to her friend's barn, and she's like, hey, friend. I don't know her name. Hey, friend, there's a new horse in your barn. And she's like, yes, it was rescued. And she's like, but now it's your horse. Because it was from, like, that Make-A-Wish.
Oh,
and
sure.
It was rescued, and it was really small because it was probably from, like, some abusive thing.
Sure.
Yeah. And so once it got back to health, and once the girl got back to health, they started riding. And her parents said, like, we made the deal with your friend. your horse can stay there. But since the horse was so small, they named it Smurf. So after a while, they all got better. And then after school one day, the girl wrote a note on their fridge saying, took Smurf to the, I can't remember, like pond or something, be back around 6. So she went there, and then she saw like a bald eagle. And there were canyons right by there. So it started going to the canyons. And she's like, Smurf, let's go check this out. And then once they got there, they started looking at the bird. And they're like, wow, this is such a pretty bird. Well, Smurf didn't say that because he's a horse.
This is Mr. Ed.
I think it was a girl.
Wilbur.
So, but then there was like an avalanche or a rock slide.
Oh.
So they're like, Smurf, let's go back. And it was like probably 3, 4-ish, somewhere around that time. And so she's like, come on, let's go. But they didn't make it out in time. And Smurf got hit by a small, not small, but by a rock and started bleeding on its shoulder, on her shoulder, his or her, I can't remember. And then the girl got buried in a rock and she couldn't move. And she just started crying hysterically, and she's like, Smurf, what do we do? What do we do? Both of us are bleeding out. And she's like, she thought about it for a while, and she's like, nobody's going to know how to find me because I said be back at 6. And besides, once it gets to 6, I'm not even where I said I was going to be.
Right.
And she's like, just starts panicking. And then Smurf is standing there. So she decides to write a note, or put rocks, not write a note. She took small rocks and put it in a pouch on Smurf's saddle. And she's like, go home, buddy, go home so everybody knows where I'm at. And then after he left, she started panicking. She's like, Smurf's bleeding out on the shoulder. What if I made the wrong call? What if he doesn't even make it home? What if he collapses on the way? And so at home, her parents read the note and said, oh, looks like she's having fun. But then Smurf comes to the friend's barn, and the friend's dad opens it up and calls the other friend and calls the girl's parents over and says, Smurf's bleeding really bad and he has rocks in his pouch. So they got like the friend to take care of the horse, or like they called somebody, and then they like called like an ambulance for both the horse and the girl.
Okay, hold it right there, Ella. We're going to take a break, and we're going to make this podcast a little longer.
All right.
And we're going to put in a ad here, okay?
All right.
Okay, we'll be right back. You've been listening to the Ella and Leland Show, and we've been talking about spooky stories today. We just wanted to mention that go ahead and get your stuff done by Gopher Recording Studio, www.gopherrecordingstudio.com. Okay, Ella, now tell us a little bit more about your...
Okay, so like I said, they had called the vet for Smurf, and they started calling like an ambulance for the girl because they're like, oh no. So the friend's dad and the dad took a 4-wheeler, or 2 4-wheelers, out to the pond, and the girl heard it and tried to scream. Well, eventually they found her, and they used the 4-wheelers to get the rock off of her, and then they took her back and took her to the hospital while the ambulance was there. So then she got taken to the hospital, and Smurf was had to stay in his stable for a really long time. He wasn't allowed to walk, so he was in like a sling. And then the girl had to walk with a cane for a long time. But after a few months, the girl came in. I think she got off of crutches, or like out of a wheelchair or something, and then started using a cane and said, Smurf, we can finally take you out to exercise today. And then that's how it ended.
Very nice.
Yes.
So that was that horse that was abused turned out to be a great horse.
A great horse. That
well, Ella, we're gonna say goodbye this week,
right.
And I've got much more for next week. Yeah. You've been listening to the Ella and Leland Show, brought to you by Gopher Recording Studio, www.gopherrecordingstudio.com, making dreams a reality.